Hello everyone. So this video I'm going to show you to darken this lower part of the ball, this red area that I showed that is the darkest part of the ball with burn tool. So what burn does is that it will darken areas on an image. Okay, so we need an image underneath, and then it will darken areas of the image. So previously what dodge does is the opposite. It will lighten areas in an image. So you need an image before you can start working on it, and it's different from a brush tool where on an empty layer you can just create brushes. So for example, I'm creating green color right now on a new empty layer. But if it's the same empty area and I try to burn or dodge, I get nothing because my layer is empty. So it's very important that we know which layer that we are working on. We are working on this black ball layer, and the layer is now has the main silhouette of the ball and quite a lot of values on it. So when I burn on it, it will work. See, when I burn on it, it will work. But let me just undo that. So we are working on this layer, and then I just want to drag and drop down to this button here. So we do a duplicate. Or I can press. Actually, that's not a very good idea. Let me just press Ctrl J to duplicate it. So I would need a duplicate because I just want to make a backup. So V1 backup. So I have a backup that I can go back to. So let's say if I burn it too hard later, I can still go back to my previous one, which is the backup. Okay, so my burn settings is on mid-tone, exposure 1%, protect tone 0, and then I'm gonna make the draw size a bit big. So I'm using the bracket key to make it big. Maybe just not. I can make it to 800 draw size. I'm using this bracket button here to make the draw size big. About 800, and then I'll just burn, 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 burn this area. So I'm trying to hit the layers that I draw over on top so you can see where I'm trying to burn over, right? So burn over these few layers, and then the effect is pretty good, but I think I made it a bit too dark, but it hit quite a few spots, so I don't really need to undo it. So I can use the backup that I did just now. So I copied this backup and I inserted this backup in between these two layers, and then I'll just put this backup as 20%. Or I can make the backup, so I can adjust that. So with this method, I can adjust like the exact burn value that I want to get at, so it's a little bit more accurate. Maybe I'm happy with this, and then I'll just do a merge down. So my value end up with 28%, and I press Ctrl E to merge down. Right click, merge down. So it's merged together. So repeat again. Just now, what I did is I duplicated this backup layer, and I drag and I inserted in between these two layers, and I changed this to 28%. So I'm using 28% of the previous layer before I burn it. So I'm like using a time machine. I brought back the version before I burn it to act as a catalyst to kind of neutralize my burn value. So that's kind of my workflow here. So I make a backup. Okay. So you may not need to follow the exact steps I did, but I think at least you get the rationale of why I do that. And then some of these tips, you can use it very often. For example, I create a lot of these kind of backup layers of the first silhouette layer when I work. So right after I did that, I feel like my silhouette is not strong enough, So I kind of want to color pick again, and I want to add a bit more dodge. Not dodge. I mean bounce light. So I'm going back to my bounce light layer. I'm adding a bit back, and then I'm going back to add a bit more blue on the top left as well. Big brush size, remember? It's useful to have big brush size. And just a little bit at the bottom. I think I don't want it to be too much. Okay, then I can go to the layer mask of the dodge brush. And I can reduce it from the inside if I want to. Okay, so the layer mask on the on the bounce like is important. I hope you understand this rationale. If you try to erase and redo again, it's gonna take a lot of time. But with a big draw size inside out, um, you're able to control this layer mask layer to control where the bounce like is restricted to. So it makes it much more realistic. Okay, right now I also feel like the blue highlight is probably a bit too strong, so I'm making like kind of like finer adjustment. So I'm just gonna press Ctrl U, which is the hue and saturation. I'll bring it down like 30, desaturate it a little bit more so it looks closer to my reference. So hue saturation is under image adjustments, hue saturation. All right. So I think the only thing lacking now is actually the shadow. So I'm gonna make a eclipse, like kind of following the shadow shape a little bit over here. And this layer I'll just call it shadow. So I'm just gonna use brush to paint it. When working with a selection like an eclipse like this, like you can press Ctrl H to temporarily hide it. Ctrl H. So the selection is actually still on, but it's hidden. So I don't have a dotted line to work with, but I can still paint. Okay, so I can still I can also go back and I burn this a little bit here. So I'll have this shadow. Alright, I'll end this off by deselecting. So how you deselect, you just click anywhere, you will deselect. Or you press Ctrl D, you also deselect. Ctrl D, D for donkey, you also deselect. If you want to unhide it, you press Shift H. Hey, hold on. Unhide it. Am I correct? Unhide, unhide, unhide. Suddenly the unhide doesn't work just now. So let me try again. Hide, unhide. Yeah, Ctrl H. You should unhide it. So if you want to bring back your selection, you can press Ctrl H to unhide it. Okay, anyway, this shadow is done. It's pretty close, but except it should be a little bit more blur. So I'll just go to filter, blur, and then I'll add a bit of Gaussian blur to this shadow. Okay. I repeat again, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. So I'll just keep this value at maybe 15 to keep it simple for you. So I added a bit of Gaussian blur to this shadow. I can still make it a little bit longer if I want to. Follow the reference a little bit better. I can bring down the opacity a little bit more. And then maybe feel like on the shouldn't be so strong on the right side. So I'm just gonna do another layer mask on this shadow layer, and I'll reduce the shadow on the right side on some of these areas. Okay, I think the black ball is done. I'll see you in the next video or the white ball. Bye bye.